this need for cultural due diligence, this need for customizing our products, our brand message, and the way that we operate isn't as necessary today as it was back in the day. Okay, so adjusting ourselves to different countries, it's no longer as relevant. And the reason is millennials. They go out and they find new relationships, and they're actually forming new communities that are centered around their interests, around their values, and also around their shopping habits. So people are going on these websites. Granted, you know, the internet, it's a global phenomenon, but they're actually forming new cultures within that globe that are transcending demographics and they're transcending borders. But what's interesting is that the conversations that are being had around the world. And so the kinds of companies that are going to be successful talking to these people need to think of themselves as truly global. When you're thinking about expanding internationally and you're thinking, you know, how do I adjust my message, my brand, the way that I talk to my employees, it's really natural to say I need to change everything. But the truth is, one of the best ways to do things is to look at the markets where you're most successful with millennials today and replicate some of those best practices. You might not need to reinvent the wheel to be successful. One of the things that we're seeing is that, in fact, category lines are blurring. Categories are starting to look more and more alike, meaning less and less distinct. So, for example, in 2010, the apparel category, if you took an average brand, it was 42% correlated to brands in other categories on average. Today, that number is 62%. Okay? So what that means is it's much easier now for an auto or financial services to all of a sudden go into retail. The barriers are much smaller. So what does that mean for you? So the bad news, right, is that your competition can now come from anywhere. Okay, you really have to watch out. The other bad news is that people are going to be judging you. Consumers are going to be judging you, not just by, you know, how your competitor is doing or your traditional competitor, but how brands all over the world and in all kinds of categories are doing. But the good news is that you can actually go out and expand your brand the same way that Uber did. All right, so what I want you to do is to kind of take a step back and think about your brand and your company. Ultimately, what is it that you do? Okay? Beyond being a financial services company or a law firm, what is the service that you're providing people? What is it that you stand for? And once you really think about that question, you might see the possibilities. We found in our data that people are looking for purpose in brands. Okay, people are willing to pay more for brands that are more green, socially responsible, do something sustainable or good for the world. They're telling us that they're willing to do that in the BEV, but Nielsen is also finding that in real life, they're paying more for it, that brands that incorporate social responsibility as part of their overall marketing message do better. Okay, on average, they have sales growth of 5% year over year as opposed to just 1% for brands that don't do it. So it's extremely important, it's extremely valuable, there's money in it. The important thing here is something that Charles Darwin once said, you know, never forget that it's only dead fish that swim with the current. And none of you guys are dead fish, but it's time to kind of step back and think, what is the most powerful aspect of my brand that I can take right now and go swim against the current? Because the ones that will do it successfully are the ones that are going to differentiate themselves and be really, really strong in the long run and prepared for this new world.